The road to the Isle of Skye begins in Inverness, the capital of the Scottish Highlands. The city wakes slowly in the grey morning light, its stone buildings huddled along the banks of the River Ness. But there is no time to linger. The weather forecast promises drama, and drama in the Highlands is something to be experienced, not avoided. The car heads west on the A82, following the shore of Loch Ness. The legendary loch stretches away to the left, its dark water holding its secrets. The surface is black today, rippled by the wind, reflecting the heavy clouds that press down from above. Perhaps the monster is down there, perhaps not. Either way, the loch exudes mystery. The road winds through Glen Moriston, a classic Highland glen. The valley is V-shaped, carved by glaciers long ago, its sides rising steeply to moorland above. The lower slopes are covered in Caledonian pine, the ancient native forest of Scotland, dark green and brooding. The trees are spaced widely, their trunks twisted by centuries of wind, their roots gripping the rocky soil. The weather begins to change. The first drops of rain spatter the windshield, tentative at first, then growing in confidence. The wipers start their rhythmic sweep. The sky ahead is darkening, a solid wall of gray and purple that swallows the mountains. Passing through the village of Dorney, a cluster of white cottages around a tiny harbor. And there, to the left, one of the most photographed castles in Scotland. Eilean Donan sits on a small island where 3 sea lochs meet, connected to the shore by a stone causeway. Its towers and battlements rise from the water like something from a fairy tale. Stopping briefly to admire it. The castle is dramatic even in gray weather, perhaps especially in gray weather. The stone walls are dark with rain. The flag on the tower snaps in the wind. The mountains behind are half hidden in mist. It is quintessentially Scottish, a scene that has launched 1,000 postcards. But the destination lies further on. The true Highlands. The really wild places. Crossing the bridge to Skye. This is a modern bridge, a graceful curve of concrete that replaced the ferry service years ago. But crossing it still feels significant, like passing through a portal into another world. The Isle of Skye is different. It feels older, wilder, more remote. The landscape is lunar in places, bare rock and moorland stretching to distant peaks. The Cuillin Mountains dominate the southern horizon, jagged black teeth of gabbro and basalt, too steep for vegetation, too harsh for comfort. They look like mountains from Middle-earth, from fantasy novels, from dreams. The rain intensifies. It is no longer falling. It is driving, horizontal, pushed by a wind that is building from the Atlantic. The wipers struggle to keep up. The headlights come on, though it is only afternoon. This is a proper Highland storm. The kind that shuts roads and cancels ferries. The kind that makes you grateful for shelter. Turning off the main road onto a single-track lane. This is the way to the castle. The lane is barely wide enough for one car, bordered by stone walls and gnarled trees that bend away from the prevailing wind. Passing places appear every few hundred meters, small laybys where oncoming traffic can squeeze past. But there is no oncoming traffic. There is nothing but the rain and the wind and the gathering dark. The lane descends toward the sea. Glimpses of water appear between the trees, gray and white with foam. The waves are enormous, rolling in from the open Atlantic, crashing against the rocky shore in explosions of spray. And then, around a final bend, the castle appears. It is silhouetted against the stormy sky, a tower of dark stone rising from a rocky promontory. It is ancient, medieval, built when Scotland was a wild place of clans and warfare. The walls are thick, the windows narrow, the doors designed to withstand siege. But smoke rises from the chimneys. Warm light glows behind the windows. This castle is no ruin. It is lived in, cared for, welcoming. The causeway to the island is visible, a stone path across the tidal flats. The tide is in, water covering the stones, waves lapping at the edges. But the causeway is passable just. The car splashes through, the water rising halfway up the wheels. Parking in the small courtyard. The engine cuts. The wind howls around the car, shaking it on its springs. Taking a deep breath. Time to face the storm. Opening the door. The wind snatches it from the hand, slamming it open. Rain drives into the face, cold and stinging. The hood goes up immediately, though it is almost useless against this onslaught. Running to the castle door. It is massive, studded with iron nails set deep in the stone wall. An iron ring serves as a handle. Grasping it, pulling. The door opens, heavy and slow. Stepping inside. The door closes behind, and suddenly the world is different. The silence of the great hall is the first thing that registers. After the roar of the wind and the drum of the rain, the stillness here is profound, almost physical. The stone walls are 6 feet thick, and they do their job perfectly. The storm is still raging outside, but in here, it is muffled to a distant murmur. The air smells of warmth. It smells of peat smoke, that distinctive, earthy, medicinal scent that defines the Highlands. It smells of old stone that has absorbed centuries of fires and feasts. It smells of beeswax polish and dried herbs. The bag drops on the flagstone floor with a wet thud, shaking the rain from the coat, sending droplets flying in the dim light. Hanging it on a staghorn hook by the door, where it begins to drip rhythmically onto the ancient stone. Looking around. The great hall is cavernous, rising 2 stories to a vaulted ceiling supported by massive oak beams. The walls are stone, bare in places, covered in faded tapestries in others. The tapestries depict hunting scenes, stags and hounds and mounted men, their colors muted by centuries of smoke and light. Suits of armor stand guard in the corners, gleaming dully, their visors closed, their gauntlets resting on the hilts of ancient swords. They look like frozen knights, waiting for a battle that will never come. But the centerpiece of the hall is the fireplace. It is enormous, large enough to roast an ox, built of rough-cut granite blocks. A fire burns in the grate, not logs but blocks of dark peat, the compressed vegetation that covers the highland moors. The peat burns slowly, intensely, glowing red at the core and emitting that wonderful aromatic smoke that smells of earth and time. The heat from the fire reaches across the hall, warming the face even at this distance. Walking toward it, drawn by the warmth, by the crackle and hiss of the burning peat. 2 large deerhounds are lying on the rug before the fire. They are enormous, gray and shaggy, looking like small horses. One lifts its noble head at the approaching footsteps, its deep brown eyes regarding the newcomer. Its tail thumps once on the floor, an acknowledgement, perhaps an approval. Then the head lowers again, the eyes close, and the dog returns to its dreams. Standing before the fire now, holding hands out toward the flames. The heat stings the cold fingers, bringing the blood back to the surface. The warmth soaks through the damp clothes, reaching the chilled core. An elderly woman appears from a door at the far end of the hall. She wears a practical tweed skirt and cardigan, an apron over them. Her face is weathered by highland wind and sun, creased into a map of kindness. "You've arrived just in time," she says, her accent soft and musical. "The tide will cover the causeway completely in an hour. You'd have been stuck on the mainland until morning." She bustles over, her sensible shoes echoing on the stone floor. Come into the fire. You must be frozen. I'll bring some whiskey to chase the cold from your bones." She takes the wet coat from the hook, tutting at its sodden state. "I'll dry this by the kitchen fire. It'll be good as new by morning." She disappears with the coat, and the sound of a kettle can be heard clinking from somewhere in the depths of the castle. Looking around again, trying to absorb the reality of this place. Stone walls that have stood for 500 years. Floors worn by thousands of feet. Windows that have looked out at hundreds of storms. There is history in every stone. Clan battles and Viking raids. Kings and outlaws. Weddings and funerals. All of them happened here, within these walls, in this very room. And now, tonight, a traveler from another century, another world, has come to shelter from a storm. Adding another layer to the story. Another presence to the ancient pattern. The woman returns with a crystal tumbler. The whiskey inside catches the firelight, glowing amber and gold. "Slaint," she says, handing it over. "Slaint," comes the reply, raising the glass in the traditional toast. Taking a sip. The whiskey is smoky, peaty warming. It tastes of the landscape outside, of dark moors and gray seas. It burns pleasantly all the way down, spreading warmth through the chest. The dogs sigh in unison, a long, synchronized exhale of contentment. Mimicking them. Feeling the tension of the drive, the cold of the rain, begin to melt away. Settling into one of the high-backed leather chairs by the fire. The leather is cracked and worn, molded by generations of sitters into a perfect shape. The chair creaks gently, accepting this new occupant. Outside, the storm howls. The wind screams around the towers like a wolf pack, hungry and frustrated. The rain lashes the windows with a sound like thrown gravel. But inside, there is only warmth. Only peace. Only the slow tick of an ancient clock and the soft breathing of sleeping hounds. Safe. The lord of this keep for tonight. The whiskey finishes, its warmth now radiating from the core to the fingertips. But there is restlessness, not from anxiety but from curiosity. A castle demands exploration. Every room has a story. Every corridor hides history. Rising from the leather chair, the dogs lifting their heads briefly, then settling back to sleep. The fire crackles as a piece of peat shifts, sending a small shower of sparks up the chimney. Leaving the warmth of the great hall and entering a stone corridor. It is cooler here, the air still and ancient, carrying the smell of centuries. The flagstones are worn into shallow dips, each one a record of countless footsteps over 500 years. A pair of heavy wooden doors stands slightly ajar at the end of the corridor. Curiosity pulls forward. Hands push the doors open. The scent hits first. It is the unmistakable smell of old books, that sweet, dusty, vanilla fragrance of decaying paper and leather binding. A smell that speaks of knowledge and quiet hours. The library. It is a room out of a dream, out of a film, out of some unimaginable fantasy of what a castle library should be. 2 stories high, with a wrought iron gallery running around the upper level, accessed by a spiral staircase in the corner. The walls are lined floor to ceiling with books, thousands and thousands of them, their spines a muted rainbow of faded reds, greens, browns, and golds. Tall windows look out over the loch, though the storm makes the view nothing but gray turbulence. Rain streams down the panes, distorting the world outside into an abstract painting. But the room is warm. A smaller fire burns in a black marble fireplace, the flames dancing cheerfully. Heavy curtains frame the windows, ready to be drawn against the night. Leather armchairs are positioned near the fire, worn and inviting. Walking to the nearest shelf, running a finger along the spines of the books. The leather is cool and smooth under the touch, some of it crumbling slightly with age. Gold lettering glints in the firelight. Latin titles, English titles, what might be Gaelic. Pulling out a book at random. It is heavy, leather-bound, perhaps 200 years old. Opening it carefully, the spine cracking softly. The pages are thick and creamy, the edges gilded with gold leaf that has tarnished to amber. The text is poetry, Gaelic by the look of it, the rhythms unfamiliar but musical. A fine dust puffs from the pages, the residue of centuries. Closing the book gently and replacing it on the shelf. These books are not for reading, they are for cherishing. They are artifacts, survivors, witnesses to history. Walking to the spiral staircase. The iron is cold under the hand. The steps are narrow, curving tightly, designed for smaller people in smaller times. Climbing up to the gallery. From here, looking down, the room feels like a sanctuary of knowledge. A large globe stands on a pedestal, yellowed with age, showing a world that no longer exists. Africa is missing its lower half. Australia is labeled New Holland. The borders are wrong, the coastlines approximate. It is a snapshot of what people thought they knew, centuries ago. Finding a window seat, a deep nook set into the thick stone wall, cushioned with velvet the color of wine. Settling in. The wall is perhaps 3 feet thick here, and the seat is carved into it, a reading alcove with a view. Pressing a hand against the stone of the window reveal. It is freezing cold, the outside temperature seeping through despite the thickness. The glass rattles in its frame as a gust of wind hits the tower. But here, in this velvet nest, wrapped in the walls of the castle, surrounded by centuries of books, there is warmth. There is safety. There is profound comfort. Listening to the room. It has its own sounds. The settling of books on their shelves. The tick of a clock somewhere in the shadows. The hiss and pop of the fire. An occasional creak from the old wood of the staircase. It is a full silence, not an empty one. A silence stuffed with history and wisdom. Wondering about all the people who have sat in this very spot. Lords and ladies, scholars and children. People who read by candlelight, who wrote letters with quill pens, who thought thoughts that are lost to time now. The weight of history is tangible here. It presses gently, comfortingly, like a heavy blanket. This castle has seen plague and war, feast and famine. It has sheltered generations, and now it shelters one more. Staying in the library for a long time. Not reading, just absorbing. Letting the peace of the place soak into the bones. The storm continues outside, visible through the streaming windows. But in here, time has stopped. The decades, the centuries, have blurred together. There is only the fire, the books, the rain on the glass, and the profound quiet of a place that has existed far longer than any living memory. A time traveler in a room that refuses to acknowledge the passing of years. Evening has turned into night, though the storm makes the transition almost imperceptible. The gray light has simply deepened into black through the windows. making the way to the dining room. It is a smaller, more intimate space than the Great Hall, designed for family meals rather than feasts. The walls are paneled in dark wood, the grain visible in the candlelight. An antler chandelier hangs above the table, holding real candles that flicker in the slight drafts. The table is set for one. Crisp white linen, heavy silver cutlery, crystal glasses that catch the candlelight like captured stars. It feels ceremonial, formal, a ritual of hospitality that goes back generations. The housekeeper brings the first course. Cullen skink, she announces warmly. It is a traditional Scottish soup, named for a small fishing village on the north coast. Smoked haddock, potatoes, onions, and cream, slow-cooked until thick and silky. The smell is incredible, smoky fish and rich dairy mixing with the warmth of the room. The first spoonful is transcendent. The fish tastes of the peat, fires it was smoked over. The potatoes are soft and melting. The cream is rich and comforting. It is a soup designed for exactly this weather, for wild nights when the wind howls and the rain lashes. Eating slowly, savoring every spoonful. Wiping the bowl clean with a piece of crusty soda bread, thickly buttered. Not wanting to waste a drop. Next comes a plate of venison stew. The meat is from deer that roamed these very hills, harvested by the estate, aged properly, cooked slowly with root vegetables and herbs. The gravy is dark and rich, glossy with beef stock. The meat is fork tender, melting on the tongue. Pairing it with a glass of red wine, a heavy claret that the housekeeper has decanted. The wine stands up to the rich food, its tannins cutting through the fat, its fruit complementing the earthy meat. Eating in silence, listening to the wind. The storm provides a soundtrack to the meal, percussion, and howling vocals, a wild orchestra playing just for this dining room. The contrast between the violence outside and the comfort inside makes every bite more precious. The food is defense against the elements. It is victory against the cold. Sitting here, fed and warm, while the Atlantic weather system does its worst, feels primal. Feels necessary. Feels right. After dinner, deciding to brave a look at the storm. A side door leads to a sheltered cloister facing the loch, a covered walkway with stone arches that provide some protection from the wind. Stepping outside. The noise is deafening. The wind roars into the cloister, carrying spray and rain in horizontal sheets. The cold is shocking after the warmth inside. Staying well back under the stone archway, watching the storm. The loch is invisible, just a black void, but the waves smashing against the sea wall below are audible, booming like cannon fire. The shingle being dragged back by the retreating water creates a sound like tearing fabric. In the distance, the lights of a distant ferry are visible, tiny pinpricks of yellow bobbing violently in the darkness. The ferry is fighting its way across the loch, heading for shelter. The image emphasizes the stability here, standing on rock while they are on water. The air is thick with salt spray. Tasting it on the lips. It is invigorating, waking up every nerve after the warmth and fullness of the meal. Standing there for 5 minutes, maybe 10, watching the raw power of the Atlantic weather. It is humbling. It is beautiful. Nature is furious, and that fury is magnificent. Finally, the cold penetrates too deeply. Hands are numb. The damp is seeping through every layer. It is time to retreat. Stepping back inside and closing the heavy door. The silence returns instantly. The roar is cut off, locking the door behind. turning toward the stairs. It is time for the tower room. Climbing the spiral staircase that leads to the east tower. The steps are worn stone, hollowed into gentle curves in the center by 5 centuries of footsteps. Knights, servants, lords, and ladies have all climbed these stairs, their weight slowly wearing away the rock. The ascent is tight and winding, turning constantly to the right. In medieval times, this design was defensive, giving advantage to right-handed defenders descending against right-handed attackers climbing. Now it is simply atmospheric, a journey through time as much as space. Running a hand along the central pillar, the newel, as the ascent continues. The stone is cold and rough, worn smooth in some places by the touch of countless hands over the centuries. Climbing higher. Past the first floor's landing, where glimpses of dark corridors disappear into shadow. Past the second floor, where the castle's bedrooms for lesser guests await. Up to the very top of the keep. A small wooden door appears at the top of the stairs. It is arched, fitting the curve of the tower, constructed of oak planks blackened by age and bound with iron straps. Pushing it open. The bedroom. The tower room. It is circular, occupying the entire footprint of the turret. The walls are bare stone, softened by tapestries that have hung here for generations. The ceiling is a wooden cone, the beams meeting in the center like the spokes of a wheel, supporting the slate roof above. In the center of the room stands the bed. A 4-poster of black oak, heavy and ancient, carved with thistles and stags, the symbols of Scotland. The posts are thick as tree trunks, the headboard a work of art in dark wood. Heavy curtains in black watch tartan, that deep green and blue check, are drawn back with brass hooks. The room is lit by a lamp on the bedside table, casting a pool of warm yellow light, and by the glow of a small peat fire in a corner grate. Yes, a fire in the bedroom. The ultimate luxury, the ultimate comfort. Walking to the window. There are 3 narrow windows spaced around the room, giving a nearly complete view of the storm. They are medieval windows, arrow slits widened over the centuries but still narrow, still deep in the thick stone walls. Kneeling on one of the window seats. Looking out. Rain is lashing the glass. It streams down in sheets, blurring the world outside into abstract patterns of dark and darker. The ground below is invisible. The sense is of floating in the storm, suspended in the clouds, high above the earth. A particularly strong gust hits the tower, and the structure shudders slightly. Not enough to be frightening, just enough to be felt. It is reassuring, actually, proof of the castle's solidity. These walls are 3 feet thick. They have stood here since the age of Mary Queen of Scots. They will stand tonight. Beginning the rituals of bedtime. Unpacking the pajamas, soft flannel, warm against the cool air. Placing the book on the nightstand, though reading feels unlikely with a view like this. Pouring a glass of water from the crystal carafe that has been thoughtfully provided. Standing by the fire for a moment. It has burned down to a bed of glowing red peat, radiating heat without flame. The smell is comforting, earthy and ancient, filling the circular room with a subtle incense. The peat smoke is the smell of the Highlands themselves. For thousands of years, people have burned this fuel, cut from the moors, dried in the wind, stacked by their homes. It connects this moment to every Highland night that came before. Turning down the lamp. The shadows in the corners of the room deepen. The firelight flickers on the stone walls, creating patterns that shift and change, making the old stone seem almost alive. Approaching the bed, It is higher than modern beds, requiring a small climb to get in. The mattress gives way slowly, firm but welcoming. The sheets are crisp cotton, cool for a moment, then warming with body heat. The duvet is heavy, filled with down, covering like a gentle weight. Pulling the covers up. Lying back against the pillows, 3 of them, each one soft and generous. In the highest point of the castle now. The most exposed to the storm outside, yet the most protected. The wind cannot reach here. The rain cannot penetrate. Only warmth, only softness, only the scent of peat and the flicker of firelight. Listening. The storm is a symphony now. A high-pitched keen, as the wind finds gaps between the slates of the roof. The bass rumble of waves crashing against the rocks far below. The percussion of rain on glass. It is the song of the Highlands. Wild and ancient and absolutely safe. Warm now. Settled, but not quite asleep. Lying in the darkness, watching the flicker of the dying fire cast dancing shadows on the wooden cone of the ceiling. The mind begins to wander, to explore the castle in imagination while the body rests. Visualizing the foundations first, deep in the bedrock of this small island. Solid granite, quarried from these very hills, set in place by masons who lived and died centuries ago. They built for permanence, and they built well. Visualizing the causeway, now completely underwater. The tide has risen to its peak, covering the stones in dark water, the waves swirling and churning above them. The castle is truly an island now, cut off from the mainland until dawn. Unreachable. Protected. Visualizing the great hall below, the dogs still sleeping by the dying fire, their great gray bodies rising and falling with each breath. The armor standing guard in the shadows, silent sentinels who have never moved and never will. Visualizing the library, the thousands of books sleeping on their shelves, their stories closed for the night, waiting for morning and the touch of a reader's hand. Visualizing the housekeeper, probably asleep now in her own quarters, the castle keys hanging by her door, ready for tomorrow's duties. All of it quietly existing. All of it surrounding this tower room, protecting it, sheltering it. There is comfort in being part of something so old, so continuous. How many people have lain in this bed, or one like it, listening to the same wind, watching the same firelight? Soldiers returning from battle. Lords departing for war. Brides on their wedding night. The dying saying goodbye. The castle has held them all. It holds one more tonight. The storm seems to be intensifying. The wind is howling louder now, a wild, chaotic sound that rises and falls in unpredictable patterns. It is throwing everything it has against the walls. But the louder it gets, the safer this feels. It is the contrast principle at work. The worse the weather, the more precious the shelter. The more violent the storm, the more absolute the protection. Snuggling deeper into the duvet. Pulling the tartan will blanket up to the ear. The warmth is complete now, a cocoon of softness and heat. Focusing on the sounds. Trying to isolate the different notes of the storm, to listen to it as music rather than chaos. The deep bass is the ocean. Waves hitting the cliffs below, crashing and booming, followed by the hiss of foam receding over rocks. The mid-range is the wind. It moans around the chimneys, finding gaps in the stonework, creating a constant low howl that rises and falls like breathing. The treble is the rain. It patters on the window glass, sometimes soft, sometimes hard, driven by the gusting wind. Together, they form a symphony. A chaotic, natural white noise that is surprisingly soothing. The brain stops trying to make sense of it and just accepts it, lets it wash over consciousness like a tide. Breathing slows, synchronizing unconsciously with the rhythm of the waves. Inhale as the wave builds. Hold as it crests. Exhale as it crashes. The ancient rhythm of the sea, felt even here in this high tower. The body is sinking into the mattress now. The legs are heavy, tired from the day's travel, from the climb up the tower stairs. The arms are relaxed, hands curled loosely on the sheets. The muscles unknit one by one. The feet release their tension. The calves soften. The thighs settle. The back lets go of the posture it has held all day. Warmth spreads through every limb, every finger, every toe. The internalized heat of the fire, the duvet, the woolen blanket, all combining to create perfect temperature. Eyes close. The afterimage of the fire is a red dot in the darkness, fading slowly, slowly, until it is gone. Ready to leave the waking world. Ready to surrender to the place of dreams. The castle will stand guard. The storm will rage and exhaust itself. Morning will come, eventually, with calmer skies and receding tides. But that is tomorrow. Tonight is for rest. The boundary between the tower and the dream is dissolving now. The walls seem to fade at their edges, becoming less solid, more suggestion. The stone is turning to mist. The fire is becoming a distant star. Floating now. Supported by the bed, but also by something else. By the history of the place. By the weight of all the sleepers who came before. Listening to the wind one final time. It has lost its threat. It sounds like a lullaby now, a song sung by ancient mothers to ancient children. It is smoothing out the world, erasing the sharp edges, preparing the way for sleep. The body is sinking deeper. Feet are heavy, anchored to the mattress like stones sinking in water. Hands are open, palms up, fingers relaxed. The mind is emptying. The thoughts of the day, of the drive through the rain, of the fairy lights bobbing in the darkness, of the soup and the wine and the fire, they are drifting away like clouds before a gentle wind. There is no storm here anymore. Only the dark. Only the warmth. Only the deep peace of the castle keep. Drifting now. Down into the mattress. Down through the stone floors. Down into the bedrock of this ancient island. Becoming part of the castle. Part of the island. Part of the storm itself. The fire gives one last pop, a soft sound, barely heard. A period at the end of the day's sentence. Safe here. Warm here. Held by walls that have held 1,000 sleepers before. The tower stands. The storm rages. And in the highest room, in the softness of the ancient bed, sleep comes. Highland sleep. Deep and dark and restorative. The kind of sleep that repairs the soul. The wind will blow itself out by morning. The waves will calm. The sun may even appear, pale and tentative over the eastern hills. But that is hours away. That is a different dream. This dream is now. This dream is warmth. This dream is the castle holding its guest in arms of stone. Sleep. Let the storm sing. Let the fire die. Let the night do its work. Tomorrow will bring new adventures. New views. New wonders. But tonight, there is only rest. Deep, ancient Highland rest. Good night. Waking comes slowly, gently, rising through layers of sleep like a bubble through water. The first awareness is of warmth, of softness, of the weight of the heavy duvet. Then the sounds filter in. Not the roar of last night's storm, but something different. Gentler. The wind has dropped. The rain has stopped. Instead, there is birdsong. Real birds, singing in the gray morning light. Eyes open. The room is dim, the fire long dead, just cold ash in the grate. But through the narrow windows, pale light is seeping in, the hesitant light of a Highland morning after a storm. Sitting up slowly. The bed protests slightly, the ancient frame creaking. Feet find the cold stone floor. Walking to the window. The view steals the breath. The storm has passed. The loch is calm now, mirror flat, reflecting the sky above with perfect clarity. The mountains on the far shore are visible for the first time, their peaks dusted with fresh snow from the storm. The clouds have lifted but not departed. They hang in layers, gray and silver and white, creating a dramatic backdrop. The world is washed clean. The rain has scrubbed everything, left the colors brighter, the air clearer. It is like looking at a painting that has just been restored. A hot shower helps chase the night's chill. The bathroom is modern despite the medieval setting, with hot water and thick towels. The contrast is jarring but welcome. Dressing warmly for exploration. The layers go on. Thermal underwear, fleece, waterproof jacket. The boots from yesterday are dry now, left by some thoughtful hand near the kitchen fire overnight. Descending the spiral stairs. The great hall is quiet, the dog still sleeping, the fire rebuilt and crackling cheerfully. The housekeeper appears with coffee, strong and hot, and exactly what the morning requires. Breakfast is a full Scottish affair. Eggs and bacon, black pudding and white pudding, tatty scones and beans. It is caloric fuel for a day of exploration, and every bite is savored. After breakfast, stepping outside. The air is cold and sharp, washed clean by the storm. The causeway is visible now, the stones dark and wet but passable. The tide has retreated to its lowest point. Walking across the causeway to the mainland. The stones are ancient, worn smooth by centuries of traffic. Looking back at the castle, it rises from its rocky base like something from legend, its towers sharp against the silver sky. The day will be spent exploring the area. There are standing stones nearby, ancient monuments older than the castle by thousands of years. There are coastal walks where seals bask on the rocks. There are distilleries where the famous whiskey is made. But first, just standing here on the causeway, looking back at the night's shelter, feeling gratitude for the storm and the warmth and the safety. The Highlands are not just scenery. They are experience. They are weather and history, and the weight of countless generations who have lived and struggled and found beauty in this harsh landscape. Being here, even for a night, even as a passing visitor from another world, is to touch that continuity. To add one more small story to the castle's long tale. The day stretches ahead, full of possibility. The storm is just a memory now. The adventures are just beginning. But the night in the tower room, the sound of the wind, the warmth of the peat fire, the weight of the tartan blanket, these will stay. These will be carried home, wherever home is. Some nights change you. This was one of them. Walking on, into the Highland morning, into whatever comes next. But looking back, one more time at the castle on its rock. Remembering. And being grateful. The The drive north takes the morning. The single-track roads of sky wind through a landscape that seems to belong to another planet. The quarrying appears on the left, a tumbled chaos of rock pinnacles and sliding hillsides, escarpments carved by ancient landslips. Stopping at a levee to absorb the view. The formations are otherworldly. There is a pinnacle called the Needle, a finger of rock pointing at the sky. There is the table, a flat grassy platform hidden among the chaos, said to be invisible from below. The shapes have names from Gaelic mythology, stories of giants and battles and magic. Walking a short way along the path. The ground is soggy, waterlogged from the storm, but the hiking boots handle it well. The scale becomes apparent only when moving through it. What seemed like small rocks from the road are revealed as house-sized boulders. What seemed like a gentle slope is actually a cliff face. The wind has picked up again, not storm strength but persistent, cold, carrying the smell of wet heather and distant sea. It whips at the jacket, pushes at the balance, demands attention. Taking photographs, though they can never capture the scale, the wildness, the sheer improbability of this landscape. It is like trying to photograph a symphony. The camera catches the notes, but misses the music. Back in the car. Continuing north. The road narrows even further, becoming barely wide enough for the rental car. Stone walls crowd in on both sides, built centuries ago to contain sheep, now slowly crumbling back into the hills they came from. Arriving at the northernmost point reachable by road. A lighthouse stands on the cliff edge, white and clean against the gray sky. Beyond it, nothing but open ocean stretching to the Arctic. Parking and walking to the cliff edge. The drop is vertiginous, hundreds of feet straight down to churning waves. Seabirds wheel below, their cries carried up on updrafts. The wind is fierce here, unobstructed, straight from the pole. Watching the waves for a long time. They roll in from the north, building and building, then crashing against the cliff face in explosions of white. The power is humbling. These waves have traveled thousands of miles, building energy, only to spend it against this rock. The lighthouse keeper's cottage has been converted into a small cafe. Ducking inside for warmth, for hot chocolate, for a chance to thaw frozen fingers. The interior is cozy, all pine paneling and woolen cushions, a contrast to the wildness visible through every window. The hot chocolate arrives, topped with cream dusted with cocoa. Wrapping hands around the mug, letting the warmth seep in. Watching the waves through the window, now safely behind glass. A couple at the next table is speaking Gaelic, the ancient language of the Highlands. It is musical, full of soft consonants and unexpected rhythms. Even without understanding the words, the melody is comforting, a reminder that this place has its own culture, its own history, its own way of seeing the world. After an hour, the warmth restored, venturing out again. The afternoon is waning, the light already beginning to fade. In Scotland, in winter, the days are short, the darkness long. But today is not winter, just late autumn, and there are still hours of gray light ahead. Driving south again, stopping at a distillery. This is whiskey country, after all. The building is low and white, sitting on the edge of a sea loch. Smoke rises from the pagoda roof, carrying the smell of roasting barley. Joining a small tour. The guide explains the process, walking through the malting floors, the mash tuns, the copper stills that gleam like church bells. The smell intensifies at each stage, from sweet grain to alcohol to that distinctive peat smoke that defines Highland whiskey. In the warehouse, walking past rows of aging barrels. The angel's share hangs in the air, the evaporated whiskey that seeps through the wood, the payment to the supernatural for patience. The darkness is cool and damp, the barrels resting on their sides, their contents slowly transforming year by year. The tasting room is the final stop. 3 samples are poured, each from a different age, each revealing a different character. The youngest is bright and sharp, tasting of heather and honey. The middle is smoother, with hints of vanilla and dried fruit. The oldest is complex, oceanic, tasting of iodine and leather and old books. Buying a bottle of the oldest, a gift for future quiet evenings. The drive back to the castle takes the remainder of the afternoon. The light is fading now, the sky turning from gray to purple to deep blue. The headlights cut through the gathering dark, illuminating the rain that has started again, softer now, a drizzle rather than a deluge. The causeway is visible ahead. The castle rises from its island, lights glowing in the windows. Smoke rising from the chimneys. It looks welcoming, beckoning, promising warmth against the coming night. Crossing the causeway. Parking in the courtyard. Stepping out into the soft rain, smelling the peat smoke, hearing the distant crash of waves. Home again. At least for one more night. The Great Hall welcomes with its familiar warmth. The dogs thump their tails in greeting. The fire crackles. The housekeeper appears with whiskey. Dinner will come later. Rest will come later. Sleep will come again in the tower room, with the wind singing its lullaby. But for now, just sitting by the fire. Just being here. Just letting the adventures of the day settle into memory. Scotland. The Highlands. The castle on its rock. A place of storm and beauty. A place of history and warmth. A place that leaves its mark. The second night in the castle is different from the first. The storm has passed, the wind has calmed. Instead of the dramatic percussion of last night, there is just the soft patter of gentle rain on the window glass. Dinner is simpler tonight, a warming bowl of lamb stew with root vegetables, the meat falling apart at the touch of a fork. The wine is the same claret as before, its depth and warmth perfect for the evening. After dinner, returning to the library. The fire is lit, the armchairs waiting. Choosing a book from the shelves at random, a collection of Scottish folk tales, and settling in to read by firelight. The stories are wild and strange. Selkies who shed their seal skins to walk on land. Kelpies who lure travelers to watery deaths. Brownies who help with household chores if treated well, but wreak havoc if offended. The Highlands are full of such creatures, the old beliefs lingering in the landscape. Reading until the eyes grow heavy. The fire crackles. The rain patters. The words swim on the page. Closing the book. Climbing the spiral stairs one more time. The tower room welcomes, the peat fire already burning, the bed turned down. The housekeeper has thoughtfully placed a hot water bottle between the sheets. The ritual of bed is familiar now. Pajamas. Brush teeth. Glass of water. Lamp off. Lying in the darkness. The sounds are gentler tonight. Just the rain, soft and steady. Just the occasional creak of old wood settling. Just the distant moan of wind around the chimneys. Sleep comes faster tonight. The body knows this bed now, trusts it, surrenders to it quickly. Dreaming of standing stones. Dreaming of seal people rising from the waves. Dreaming of a castle that has stood for 500 years and will stand for 500 more. Morning comes with weak sunshine. Actual sunshine, the first since arriving. It streams through the narrow windows, painting stripes of gold on the stone floor. Packing is slow, reluctant. The tower room has become a sanctuary, and leaving it feels wrong. But the causeway will flood at high tide, and the ferry back to the mainland must be caught. One last breakfast in the great hall. The dogs come for pats, their great gray heads pushing against the hand. The housekeeper provides a thermos of tea for the road, a gesture of Highland hospitality. Walking out to the car. The castle looks different in sunlight. The stone is warmer, the moss greener, the sea a deep blue rather than storm gray. The mountains on the far shore are clear for the first time, their snow-capped peaks sharp against the sky. Driving across the causeway. Looking back one final time. The castle stands solid and ancient, banner flying from the tower, smoke rising from the chimneys. It has stood here through 6 centuries of storms. It will stand here for centuries more. The nights spent here are just a moment in its long story, but they are moments that will be remembered. The road winds away. The castle shrinks in the mirror. But something has been gained that can never be lost. The experience of shelter in a storm. The comfort of thick walls and warm fires. The knowledge that such places exist, that they welcome travelers, that the old hospitality of the Highlands is still alive. Carrying that knowledge forward. Into the mainland, onto the ferry, back to the world of modern life. But forever changed. Forever touched by the magic of the castle on its rock. Slant hath. Good health. The old Scottish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May you always find shelter like this when the storms come. Goodbye, Scotland. Goodbye, Highlands. Until the next storm. Until the next fire. Until the next tower room in the clouds. Goodbye. The second evening at the inn is quieter than the first. The storm energy has passed, replaced by a settled contentment. Dinner is taken in the same seat by the fire, but the meal is savored rather than devoured, the body no longer desperate for warmth but simply enjoying it. Afterwards, returning to the library one more time. Choosing a different book tonight, a collection of local history, stories of the villages and their characters over the centuries. Reading about the wool merchants who built these villages, their wealth so enormous that they could afford to endow churches that rivaled cathedrals. Reading about the decline of the wool trade, the villages falling into gentle decay, preserved by their poverty until tourists discovered them. Reading about the wars that touched even here, the Civil War skirmishes, the young men who left for Flanders and never returned. Reading about the characters, the eccentric vicars and formidable ladies and village simpletons who populate every English community. The fire